So could we please have a roll call, please?
Certainly. Michael Albetta,
Here.
Nadine Hankerson,
Here.
Daniel McCauley,
Here.
Mary Peliquin,
Here.
and Chair Wise.
Here.
Do you have a quorum, sir?
And if the staff could, Anthony, start just to introduce themselves so everybody knows.
Sure. Anthony Fajardo, Assistant City Manager, City of Fort Lauderdale.
Ashley Dussard, Director of Strategic Communications.
Jania Robinson, Charter Revision Board Liaison.
Pat Riley, City Auditor.
Gabrielle Bush, Assistant City Attorney.
Go ahead. And then we have our guests.
Marilyn Milano from Lauderdale tomorrow.
And Jim Concanon, the liaison to the Council of Civic Associations.
Let's have a pledge of allegiance, please.
Did Paul introduce himself?
Oh, do we do the roll? Wait, that's fine. You recorded it, right? That we're all here?
Yes, sir.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Well, now we're supposed to do the roll call. Go ahead. Roll call.
Oh, we just did.
Oh, good.
We're good.
All right. There's a quorum present. Approval, to have a motion to approve the April 3rd minutes, or if anybody has any changes to make. A motion to approve the minutes,
I so move to approve the minutes
moved by
I second, Michael Albetta.
seconded by Michael. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, Ashley, why don't we start with you?
Alright, good evening, everybody. So I made those changes from our last meeting to the main narrative that will be on the spotlight page that will be created. And then you all gave some feedback on the survey, and I wanted to go through some of your comments on the survey so that we can have a consensus on moving forward on the survey itself. And then I anticipate being able to launch this page in the next week or so we can start promoting the survey and getting some feedback and gathering some information. So, okay. So, first comment that I received here refers to question 7, and I think you all have a copy of the survey in your packet there.
We do.
Okay. So question 7 refers to the use of public land. Now, one thing that I wanna address before, cause a lot of these comments I think have to do with the lack of information in the survey itself. I wanna remind everybody that the survey will be embedded on the page with the main information. So they will see all of this first before going to the survey. So all of that information is gonna be available to the people who are taking the survey.
When you say main information, what are you referring to?
That is the main narrative that we approved and
Last time?
revised last time, yes. So that will be the first thing that people see when they go to the spotlight page we're creating, and then they will have an opportunity to take the survey. So if at any point they're unsure about anything, the information will be there. So going to question 7. The comment is that the subject is fairly complex in the charter, and I doubt many people are aware of how it works. And obviously it's a very complex process. What it takes to a majority vote to sell, lease, or repurpose public land, should it change to a supermajority instead? That was the comment about this question. Is there any information that you all think needs to be added to this question? I think I agree it's a complex issue, and I'm not sure how best to explain it in this. I would need to educate myself a little bit on the process and what's needed to be able to kind of break it down for this as well. Yes.
Oh, I'm pretty sure that was my.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, because, and I don't know if you have a copy of the charter, or if you wanna have a copy of the charter.
I can,
But it,
yeah.
I mean, that, it is, I mean, I have to read it several times, and
Yeah.
and then I understand it. Sort of like reading Shakespeare, after you read it for a while, you know what he's saying. So, I don't know, sorry. I mean, I kinda looked at that, how could you put this, but if that information is gonna be already, in front of them to look at, I was trying to I don't wanna say dumb it down, but I was trying to make it simpler.
Yeah, the information that we have on the main page will say, use of public land and disposition. The Charter Revision Board is discussing the process for selling, leasing, or repurposing city-owned land, specifically looking at how and when public land can be sold or leased. And this is an open-ended question about what are your thoughts on how it should be handled and are there any changes you would recommend? So I guess the inclusion of some specifics on what the process currently is would be needed. And I would want the attorney's office to weigh in on what that process is and if it's something we can break down simply enough to put in here.
And I mean, is it really necessary? I mean, I just thought, well, if I saw that question, I probably wouldn't answer it. You would probably answer it, or
I'll write a
all of you would, but but
Is it something as simple as currently it takes a simple majority, 4 votes or 3 votes? And should it,
It's not simple at all, because depending upon the type of transaction, depending upon what you're doing, depending upon the term, all those things, it's not simple. So it would be not, you couldn't just say it like in a couple of words or something like that. But this brings up a point that I was gonna bring up a little bit later, but I was thinking about sort of our work and how we're doing it and where we go from here, and the makeup of the board has significantly changed. Before, Mary, you listened to Jim, you listened to some of the prior meetings, and Anthony, before there was a, and I don't say, I'm not being at all judgmental about this, because it could have been a very good agenda, but the members of the board came to the meeting with an agenda. They were unhappy about something. Something happened that they didn't think was proper. They didn't like the way this was. There was a whole agenda that they had, that they brought to the meetings, that then resulted in the changes that we presented to the city commission. And I was thinking about us looking at these articles, and the problem is, because the nature of the board has really changed a lot. And so a lot of the impetus for the changes that we came up with came from the board. I'm not happy with the way this is, or I'm not happy with that is, and this is not handled properly, and this took too long, and they were fooling around with this and all that. And Jim, you know this well because you listened to all of it, and you listened to a lot of it too. There was an agenda. And I'm not saying it was a good agenda or a bad agenda, but it was an agenda. And the thing is that I was trying to, and Anthony and I talked about this a little bit, about because many of us are not coming here with a particular agenda. We just want to do, can the charter be approved? Can it be more, whatever. The problem is that we're shadow boxing. And we're trying to, and this is why Anthony's here tonight, but I don't really, thinking about what I asked him to do, it's not really fair, which is, what are the problems that we're trying to address? What are things that have happened? And the problem is because of the fact that a number of board members have come without a particular agenda. I gotta change this, I gotta fix it. The board members are not coming with that some of the board members are not coming with that kind of a agenda. And so when I was talking actually to Anthony about this, I said, who's gonna ask the question, who's gonna raise the issue? Well, I was not happy with this. So who's gonna do that? And I struggled with because again, it's shadow boxing. We're trying to figure out, well, maybe they did this because of that, and then we go back and have to try to explain why people are unhappy about things, why people who are not here or are not on the board anymore, or some member of the public who wasn't here, were they unhappy with something that's in the charter? So I wanted to really, we don't need to do it in this, we could do it in this context, but I wanted to talk to you about that because I don't come here with an agenda. I wanna make the charter, I'm a technician. I wanna make the charter better. But I don't have a particular thing which I gotta get this changed. I don't come that way. And so either the impetus for the changes in the charter have to come from some clarification that the city attorney's office would like to do. We have direction to look at certain sections from the city commission, but not direction as to change it this way. It's just like change the look at the section, review the section. And I wanted to open it up to the board to talk about how we stop shadowboxing and how we sort of address how we identify issues that we want to address when they're not, when there's nobody here yelling and screaming and saying these things need to be addressed. So I don't have an answer, but I've been thinking about this a lot, and Anthony and I had a conversation about it, and I said, well, maybe Anthony, you could raise some of the things, but I've thought about it a lot. I don't really think it's fair for the staff to be talking about, well, this guy was upset about this, and this was upset at that, and this is why we're changing this, and this is what we're do you understand what I'm trying to get at? So I wanted to open up, actually it's sort of out of your thing, but maybe it'll help you to listen to it, but I just wanted to talk about it.
Yeah, I really appreciate that, Richard, and I was thinking about this, and we did discuss last time, because we're on the subject now of land sale, so of us, and I look back at the minutes, we said maybe someone from the city attorney's staff would come through and look at some of the more vote, and I had a list of those and how they occurred and what was the structure, and because I do have some concern that things that I think were beneficial to the city wouldn't happen if we change the charter too substantially. So that's sort of, I at least wanna explore that, like when I made a list of certain votes that may or may not have been controversial, and I'd like to look some report maybe about how those, were they unanimous, were they 3 out of 5? Would we really want some of those to go to a referendum? Would it have occurred? So that's sort of a thing, like I was thinking, like would the YMCA have occurred if we had to go to a referendum? And is that a good or bad thing?
And one of the things I did have a conversation with the city attorney's office, and one of the things which I do understand is that a lot of these transactions occurred under different regime, different city attorney, and it's very uncomfortable for the assistant city attorney who's responsible for this to come here and say, yeah, this happened, but maybe I wouldn't have called the legal issue this way, or maybe this, because it's very uncomfortable for them to be, questioning like a decision that was made not by them, and so I felt a lot of discomfort, and I think, I honestly believe that be a tough position to put somebody in. But I totally understand exactly what you're saying, but I'm trying to figure maybe somebody else, Nadine, Michael, Mary, some other way to understand what because Michael, you're right. I mean, Dan, you're right. Maybe there's some things that some people in the past wanted to change, but they shouldn't have been changed. But they had a particular thing they were trying to solve, and so we tried to solve it. But I usually can come up with a good answer to my questions, but I don't really know what to do with this. Because it goes all the way from land to elections to qualifications for office to all of this stuff. And so Mary,
Well,
got an idea?
yes, Jim and I sat in, I think, most, if not, maybe I missed 1 or 2, but meetings, the prior group, and honestly, Richard, they were painful. They were painful. I went home and threw rocks in my pool one night. I was mad. And I wasn't even on the board. I would like to not be like that. And I mean, I know you're laughing, but I seriously was very upset. And I understand that people want to come because there's a problem that they think is a problem, but that's fine. And that's important because what you might think is a problem, I might not have ever even thought of. So I kind of like the way the last meeting we had was terrific.
We're not gonna have those kind of meetings.
Okay.
I can guarantee you that. But given that, how do we proceed? How do we look at the section on leasing of public lands and know whether there's some reason for it to change or not change? And Michael, do you have
I'm just waiting you to finish.
No, finished. If I had a good idea, I would be telling you, I don't know.
Well, first and foremost, I've sat on a very responsible committee, and I feel it's responsible as the Council for Civic Associations. How long were you the chair, Mary Pelican?
For the council,
Yes.
5.5 years.
How many times did the chair of this committee come to the council?
Never.
So what I'm trying to say is you need to come out of the ivory tower and visit us, visit the people who represent the city. All the people that volunteer their hours. And just not a one-time visit, couple-time visit. And you asked me for my input, I'm telling you what it is. And the fact of the matter is that you have a lot of intelligent people from various different groups that are sitting there.
There's one.
Yeah, and when you raise the question, especially on this issue about use of public property, you get feedback. And the chair of the current, or whoever is the current chair, sets the time and says, we're gonna discuss this hour for the next 20 minutes. And you get osmosis, just bring it back. And I think that's what it's all about, is that we're all volunteers and putting our time together and you're gonna get some wonderful answers. Some you may not like and some, we can, okay.
So you're suggesting that the answer to the question is that we're not gonna really find out what the issues are and what needs to be changed, or what people think needs in these meetings. Your suggestion is that we need to somehow have a better outreach, a better interaction with civic groups, people in the community, all that, in order to find out what concerns they have. Is that what your suggestion is?
Well, it's a yes and no statement, because the fact is that I don't want to seem like the CRB is like the man behind the curtain, the person behind the curtain. Who's the Wizard of Oz here, You come out and see the people and talk to the people and have a conversation with the people and then introduce you so they feel, wow, it works. Because last time that I witnessed it, and I'm telling you folks of this board here, was the person that was sent in there, he came with 100 pounds of information into a 5-pound bag, and no one understood exactly what he was speaking about. And that's why this failed. So that was the past. Let's talk about the now, and let's go forward. Here it is.
Okay, so a suggestion's been made that that this board needs to do more, I guess, personal outreach to the community to figure out what they're saying.
Public forums, yeah, go in certain districts, District 1, District 2, District 3, District 4, and just talk to the people. And just tell the people this is exactly, I think I'm on record of saying this before, is that correct? Remember I brought all that data and everything else?
Yes.
Yeah, and I stated, this is what was needed. I spoke with the past chair, and they said yes, and I spoke to various different civic associations in various different districts, and with the district reps, District 1, District 2, District 3, and District 4, and they said that would be great if you can come help hold the town hall meeting.
In the past charter review boards that I've done in other places, we basically have said, we're gonna discuss public lands tonight. And we've publicized it, we've said, listen, if you have something to say about public lands, come and talk to us. You're suggesting that that's not good.
They come here,
Yes.
we know to go to them, not us, they could come here. You asked me a question, I'm giving you an answer.
You don't need to apologize, I appreciate your answer.
Just like, again, like I wear this pin very proudly, is the USS Fort Lauderdale. I was the under chair of outreach. We went to the people, we set up events all over, we talked about what the hell USS Fort Lauderdale is, what's coming in, and it was we educated the people.
Without getting involved in the details of what would that look like, how does the board feel about doing that? Dan,
Go ahead, Nate.
No, I would love to have the outreach, because oftentimes communities don't always understand. Even while we might reach out, we have to begin teaching what's in here, because if there are capacity issues with understanding the concept, we're still right back where we started from. In selling anything, looks like the laws have changed in a big way, maybe over the last decade. And maybe our charter does not reflect those changes. Maybe we need to start with where are the changes within the last even 5 years that radically affects people of those who don't have the capacity to know what's happening to the land around them that they so depend on as a part of their leisure, as a part of their work activities. So I think that from a time consumption period, we need to begin to say, what are the things that are there that have radically changed over the last 5 years? And if they've changed from the lease to the leasing. I mean, you know, in this game, there are so many slick things that happens that we are afraid to address, and that they create these things so that people don't know and don't understand. So I think that if we take it from a time period and say over the last 5 years, what we have in public land and what has happened in the city, these are the things that we need to address. Because based on what we hear from the people, they represent the problem. Let's take a look at it. We may not need to fix some things that may not be a problem. But over the last 5 years, because slicksters are in the game, predators are in the game, I know because I've been living it the last 7 years. So, and things that we don't want to talk about that are uncomfortable to communities, just like you brought up the YMCA. And, you know, the whole idea when the YMCA was put in the African American community, it is like, okay, why you got one right down the street? Because you don't want to be with black folks. So those are kinds of the real issues that folks don't want to talk about and that are uncomfortable with talking about it in terms of public land use. So I'm saying is that we have to begin to have real conversations about how these things affect us over time. And we are at now a 5-year marker where we can look at it and know that there are new laws and regulations that are on the book that affect these things. And I think if we do it within a time period and make the adjustments, some things can solve themselves without throwing everything on the kitchen table.
Daniel?
I would just say that, I mean, I think we still need to make progress in understanding, like maybe a hybrid of, like I agree with his approach. We send out the questionnaire, get feedback, don't slow down because we do have to heavy lifting, looking at things, do some more outreach. But as you said, like, I'm not sure, like we try to coalesce the agenda of the community of what things people are really upset about and really need to fix in the charter. And maybe we focus a little bit more too sometimes on the technical things that we need to get done, that we knew that we should make sure we have done, so we have those done. I also want to make sure the corollary is, I want to make at least sure we're paying attention to what we're gonna have to present this to the city commission and get the vote there too. So like, I don't want to do something that I know that at least we don't think has a chance of passing either. Like that's a waste of our time either. So we should try to focus on things that will get done also. But I agree with you. We should. What is the agenda? Because I don't. As you said, I'm still trying to figure out what are the agenda that we got to get done.
I'm wondering, does any member of the public have a comment on what we're talking about?
Thank you. I would be very appreciative of commenting. I'm Marilyn Mamano. I'm here tonight representing Lauderdale Tomorrow, which is an advocacy group. So I am here as an advocate tonight. I'm not here as a planner. I'm not here as my personal person or a member of the Council of Fort Lauderdale Civic Association or any of the other roles that I have had in the city. I'm here as an advocate. And our organization is dedicated, motivated, activated by the concept of public lands for public purpose. That's in our mission, public lands for public purpose. And we've been at the forefront of this argument for years. And so as an advocate, we looked at the work that y'all did the last time around, and we were delighted. we were thrilled and delighted with the work that the previous board did. Specifically in relation to the definition of what was public purpose and the closing of the lease license, what's the other one? Lease license. Any other name you can think of which
Of the
the former
Lease license and concession.
concession or any other name that a creative city attorney can come up with to accommodate a political agenda. Again, advocate, okay? So if you are interested in getting community feedback on these items, we will fill St. Sebastian's with people. We will throw rose petals in your path as you walk in because this is right on. This is our wheelhouse. And the reason we're interested in this is because in the past, as one of your members just spoke, there have been a lot of projects that have been approved using public land for various things, okay? I have right here on commission's agenda, the next agenda, the lease for the YMCA, okay? It's right here. We're doing it again. We're calling it a lease. It's not a lease. They're giving the land to the YMCA combined with the hospital portion of it, which is an interesting combination. But they're giving them the land for 50 years with two 25-year extensions. You may as well give it to them, just sell it to them, give it to them, because you're never going to get that land back. That land's gonna be guided by a comprehensive agreement. Don't get me started on the problems. I'm not gonna get started on that. I'm getting back, yes.
Not on an issue.
I'm coming back.
Focus.
Right,
And first
I'm
of
not,
all, thank you.
I will come back to that.
Okay, I will.
I'm not gonna get into individual projects.
We're going to talk about process.
Process. You hit the nail on the head with the process. The charter needed to be changed to prevent the sale of city-owned land by another name. Any other name is the same thing as a sale, okay? And the sale should be by a majority, a unanimous vote of the city commission. That has been our holy grail, okay?
I'm not trying to cut you off, you're gonna have plenty of time to talk. I'm talking about a broader issue, which is what is the process that the charter review board's gonna, that is not the only issue. That's one issue that you're particularly,
Correct.
but there's a lot of issues. And so I'm trying to come up with a process or of how we're gonna deal with, all these other issues. Clearly, there's a constituency on this issue. Mary, just second, then Jim.
So, having been through this for 2 years, I guess now, I think that a lot of great work was done previously. That could be a foundation, a baseline to bring out in this outreach attempt to the rest of the community, maybe even part of the survey, as this is what we've started with. Do you, the public, the community out there, do you see validity in this? Does this mesh with what you think you want to see the city do with public land? And I think that would give you a heads up, maybe a head start on where you move forward.
But you're suggesting, I'm trying to be at 10,000 feet, you're suggesting that as a pattern for whatever the prior board did. We show people what the prior board did and said, what do you think about what the prior board did? Is that what you're suggesting?
Yes, take the prior board, take it out to the community and see if you need to improve or change it. Because a lot of good work was done and I think a lot of it makes a lot of sense, so
Mary,
it's a good place to start.
what's your
Well, I agree with, I think everybody, they're really great points, Nadine especially, but I think we gotta get started. And the Ashley survey is a great place to start, and I look at this as like a train, we're gonna have a website, this is gonna be the first survey, we're gonna learn from it. Maybe we only learn about 4, 5, and 6, maybe 7 is just too much.
Yeah.
But people will certainly understand this, we'll get answers. And some other surveys that the city has done, like when we look for a city manager and we got the results back from what was most important to people, extremely helpful, and that's what we use. And so I think, I know that people get survey tired, but if this is on a website that people get used to looking at, here's the results, so here's what we're gonna look to do, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then So this is just the first survey, then there'll be another one. Maybe there'll be just one on public, use of public land, and so I think just to get started, because a lot of the work was already done, let's just get started. And
I guess what I'm trying to address is that there's some indication that maybe some of the work was, people don't think that some of the work was so good.
I think it was good, the
I know that you
process
think
was
it's
terrible.
Danny, what's your thought?
I'm still, deciding, I say what the agenda is, like that's why I'm saying gathering more feedback, I think is a appropriate time, like getting the survey right and getting it out, getting more feedback, like Michael suggested, I think is a good thing. I don't wanna slow us down from doing some heavy lifting and reviewing things so that we can also explain it better. I have been trying to do more heavy lifting on my own too, and we all need to do our own homework, but like us reviewing it and it enables us to explain it better too, to everybody else. And then when we get the feedback, we're able to move a little bit further too.
Is there any interest in the group of sort of going out on a road show to these various groups? Would anybody be interested in doing that?
It'd be good to go to like a
1, 2, 3.
pre-commission meetings and,
How about the council?
3 hands just went up, 1, 2, 3, Mr. Chair. 1, 2,
How about
3.
the
I'm sorry, was
So how many,
Are you asking for a show of hands of the board?
I was just trying to know
I'm in.
whether there was an interest in the board of going out and attending, I don't know, a certain number of community meetings and talking, but I think the point, I think Michael was talking about a 5-pound bag, or I forgot what it was, but it
You're
was
putting 100 pounds in a 5-pound
it was
bag.
a good, the problem is like, talking about public lands for a second.
Sure.
In order to explain to people what the story is with public lands, it's a big bag. I mean, it's not, hey, this is what we do. It's this if it's a park, it's this if it's for a longer time, it's this is for a shorter time, this is if it's a permit, this is if you're gonna build, this is, it's not the hard part, a harder part, challenging part is to try to explain to people.
Point of information, there was an issue that happened this past year in District 1, was the Dottie Mancini Park. I mean, people didn't understand that, what happened there, with the hospital, with the whole city, am I right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that was a perfect issue, but moving forward, this is where we educate the people, and then people can relate and say,
But who's gonna educate the people? Who's
We.
going to explain to them all these 7 provisions of the charter
No.
that relate to public lands? That's what it is.
yeah, somebody better write us some notes, so we're saying the same thing.
I imagine, just like the Constitution of the United States, I mean, people can read the Constitution of the United States, I mean, certain people just break it down and there's the alleged vision where it's simplified, where we can simplify it, I imagine so, yes, no, maybe?
Yeah, sure, it can be simplified.
Okay, so in common terms with people, that's what I said when my first meeting came here, I said simplicity, 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 so people can understand what we're speaking about.
Because in order to ask the question as to whether the change has to happen, you have to understand what the current situation is.
Mr. Chair, I only wish, I keep referring back, that I could have it was a Kodak moment, that if the faces after the gentleman made the presentation that night of what he was speaking about, it was
It
like,
was too much, I understand.
it was wild.
I understand.
And I felt sorry for him.
We asked him to do it, so it was
I know, and he did the best he could,
he
but
did the best he could.
No, well, I'm not saying that, but moving forward, I believe in now and moving forward, forget about the past, moving forward. So that's why we're all sitting here, and that's why we're having this discussion. So we can
That's
take
why I
it,
raised it.
yeah, thank you, sir.
So what's your thought, Anthony? You have a thought about this?
Yeah, well,
It's okay. I wouldn't hold it against you.
No, I was thinking, in that situation, because I was there too, and I saw everybody
Right.
glaze over, and it was unfortunate. In that situation, we were taking something that was put together by the Charter Review Board and presenting to them as this is their recommendation. I think what the fundamental difference here is we're asking for more engagement. So I think breaking it down by topic is doable. Of course, you can only take so many chunks at a time to a group of people like that, and you have to be careful about wordsmithing on the fly. That's not something that's very helpful, but conceptualized it can work, I think, as long as we can focus on, for instance, it used to not say licensing concessions in the agreement. So now the Charter Revision Board has input licensing concessions, because that's been a fundamental concern from others, because these things have happened in the past, and see what the feedback is. I think you can do it. It's a lot if you try to get into the minutia, but if you stay high level and just try to explain to people that
Okay,
it's either easy to do it now because of X, Y, and Z, and we could make it harder by adding X, Y, and Z. What's your
yeah, Ashley, you're an expert in this, what's your thought?
So I think that, and listening to all this conversation, my first thought was direct outreach is always the best way to get information to people and help them. I mean, we do what we can, but it's always gonna be en masse from us. And I do think that going directly to people is the best way to get
To groups of people
to
or?
groups of people, or I think a passive way to do it is, you're gonna get your passionate advocacy. I know Marilyn's gonna share it with everybody she knows so that she can get the survey responses out. But it's the average person who doesn't necessarily engage with the city on a regular basis that you wanna get information from, right? Because you're gonna hear from the passionate people who are here in the room and all of those people. And direct outreach is the best way to do that. I do think that I could probably take the language in the charter, and what we do is simplify it and give maybe a one-sheet handout of bullet points for you all to take to these meetings and say, here are what is in the charter today. And then you can go through that with them and then say, here's a survey we would like you to take. Is there anything on here that you wanna change? And that might be the best way to do it.
Okay, so let's take this a piece at a time. We sort of have agreed that this issue of public lands and all of that is sort of an issue. So maybe we should try one. And let's try having a series of these public meetings based upon use of public land. And then we're gonna start with a summarized sheet that Ashley's gonna do with the city attorney's office. That's going to make it, it's simple, very simple, like Michael has suggested, okay. So we have this sheet done, okay. I will tell you with respect, I don't have time to be going out to these civic groups, and if it means that somebody needs to replace me, that's fine, but I don't have time to go out and be, at these civic groups. If other members of the board feel comfortable.
Mr. Chair, could you go at least to the council for little civic associations? At least once or twice?
It depends on, it depends on
Schedule.
basketball schedule, it depends on a draft deadline, it depends on a lot of things for me, I don't know.
No, I understand, but maybe,
But I mean, if there's somebody, if they have the notes, then the board, somebody from the board needs to go, or staff needs to go. Somebody needs to explain it.
I mean, we could definitely do it. I'd have to, now when I say that, I don't know how often we could do it. I mean, we were limited, Ginny and myself, there's not a lot of in the manager's office. But I could definitely offer to help supplement if a board member can't be at that meeting, or if a board member would like one of us to attend, I could definitely go with them, subject to availability.
So-
But we're willing to help
so-
any way we can.
Nadine, are you willing to go into these?
absolutely.
And Michael?
sure.
Mary, Daniel?
And I think it'd be good to go,
Schedule to availability, yeah,
Yeah.
I
I
mean,
could make one.
I mean, working stiffs or maybe, well, I have more time, but I kinda like to go a couple of times with Anthony because with your cheat sheet.
I'm thinking that maybe 2 board members and a staff person would be moral support and also sort of
Okay.
making sure that,
You have to notice that.
that's okay, so you notice it. So
Just
You know,
FYI.
So,
We'll talk about it.
Michael,
So what's processing in my mind too right now at the moment is that I always say unity is strength, and the fact is that you have a District 1, District 2, District 3, District 4 reps of the Council for Rural Civic Associations. We get a hold of them, they work with us, they know their district, that's why they're there. We get the illustrious Anthony Fajardo come with us. We get cheat sheets done, and people, they can relate to the faces that are gonna come in the room. We light them up. It's the Mo method, mobilize, organize, and energize. You put that in there, I'll tell you something, you could sell that in 2 minutes. And I'm very serious about this.
Alright, so let's try this let's try it on one issue to start off.
I'm sorry to get so enamored about this,
You
but
don't have to keep apologizing, you're doing a great job.
you know, it's my passion about this is,
I intend to run this very friendly and you don't have to worry about it,
Okay.
don't keep apologizing. We're not gonna do that,
because I don't want Jania to get mad at me, you know?
that's a different story.
He's scared of her.
Okay, so do we have a consensus that we're gonna, that Ashley with the city attorney's office is going to move on some sort of sheet on, let's just deal right for the moment, take a piece on public lands, just to see how it goes.
I think that's,
And
I
then-
think that's perfect.
And then so is the suggestion that we meet with the Council of Civic Associations
Great.
and just the one group and that's it, or are there other ones that we should be going to?
Well, may
You're
I,
invited,
Mr.
we're
Chair?
inviting you.
Yeah, exactly, you have the district reps there, that's why they're so-called, they're District 1, District 2, and they know their
When you
district.
talk about district reps, what are you talking about?
Like, there's a district rep from District 1,
In what district rep to?
of the Council of Fort Lauderdale Civic Associations. And you utilize that specific person that's assigned there, and especially at the District 2, District 3, and District 4. And then, you know, whoever.
So you go to them and say, okay, we're gonna do this roadshow.
Right.
How would you say, how would you suggest that we do it?
And there's a buy-in, and they feel that finally, that we, the CRB, is being real. And we're coming out to the people and we're speaking to the people, so it's not like, you know, so they understand exactly what we're doing.
Also, they know their civic association presidents and stuff, and they'll, you know, we can ask them, please let us, you know, communicate to them, actually, we have all those names anyway, just say, let us know when your next meeting is and we'll come.
Yeah.
Take, you know, 10 minutes, you know, you can't take too much time.
Well, we wouldn't do just like, Mary, if I may say, just like one civic association, you get a whole gaggle of them.
You do it by districts.
By
Like do it
districts,
by
yeah, by
districts,
districts.
yeah.
District
You put
sounds
all
good
the-
because
you put all the
there's
districts
four
together.
districts,
Come again?
4 districts.
If I recall, I was the District 2 rep, so there is 22 civic associations in District 2.
Wow.
There's 60 altogether.
So what you would do, the District 2 reps' responsibility is to work with us, so we'll put mailers out, whatever, you know, give them ample time notice, and they get them together and find out what.
Alright, so we're gonna do 4 presentations organized for us by the district rep.
Correct.
However they sort of feel is appropriate.
Correct.
There's gonna be a presentation by some charter board member along with the staff based upon a cheat sheet.
Right.
I'd ask that it be a listening session as opposed to an advocacy session from the charter board. You know, I think we need to change
Now you're
this, I don't think it should be that, I think it should be, we're here to know what you think about what's been going on in this area. Okay, and to the extent 2 board members are gonna attend, it's gonna have to be, it's no big deal, they're just gonna have to be in the sunshine, there are gonna be some minutes taken and the public's gonna be present, it's not that big of a deal. So, does that, yes,
I was just gonna, I was going to suggest what Michael did, and further to that, leverage the Council of Civic Associations because of its widespread distribution of information. We could put the survey on the website, on the council's website, as another media outlet. We could talk about it in one of our meetings. You could have someone from the board do a 50,000-foot introduction to the district reps at one of the meetings. You could probably even do it at the board meeting, might be
Jim,
more.
there's a president and then there's these 4 representatives that sort of
We
report.
kind of have to ask the president to show.
Well, we would
Of
ask the
course.
president.
So there's
but I
a
think
president and then he has these 4 district reps that sort of are the next level down. Okay, so maybe we should approach the president and then he can then say, you're gonna get a call from the city to do these things. Are you the president?
No, I'm the liaison, so
I'm the past president.
we all know him very well, because we're all in the
He's
board.
been to these meetings.
Anyway, we start with that and then we say we're gonna do this and please let your district reps know that they're gonna be contacted so that they can customize the
Mr. Chair, may I suggest is that maybe
can
we
do that.
invite Bill Brown, that's the gentleman's name, William Brown, to the next CRB meeting, so he understands, so he's he's not cold copy.
But we'll talk to him.
Yeah, let
Yeah.
him talk.
Yeah.
Are we allowed to talk to him?
you can talk to them and you can talk to them, but you can't
You
talk to them
told them
together.
together.
Okay,
So, yes,
Or we could talk to
briefly,
him.
yeah, the liaison, yeah.
Yeah.
briefly.
Briefly.
Just-
Ashley knows, when we were doing the reimagining City Hall, we did something similar.
Okay.
We did one central meeting and one in each one of the districts. The city actually had a consultant, to run those meetings. And I bring this up because you guys are all very well-meaning, but I don't think we're gonna get the district reps as volunteer people to be doing a lot of this heavy lifting of finding a place, getting the coffee, sending out the notices, yada, yada, yada.
Does city staff have the ability to do that?
Well, I'm,
To an extent, yes, if we can find a budget.
I was asking,
Neighborhood support, neighborhood support.
Anthony.
yeah, I would, he'd be the guy to
Yeah.
ask.
I mean, yes, I have to run this through the city manager's office and
So-
make sure that we
Alright,
can
so
budget for it.
Nadine, I just wanna make
the
sure you're
resources.
comfortable with this, cause I didn't hear.
No, I'm comfortable.
You're
I
okay
think
with
it's important you get data from the people who these rules affect. That's why I'm good.
So I think that's a good start for now, I don't think we need a motion, I think you know what we're gonna do.
Yeah, I took some notes and
Okay, and then I do think it would be okay if Jim, if you would reach out to the president.
Yep.
Invite him to our next meeting, but also cause I would not like to lose a month here if we don't have to. But at least get things going, tell him this is gonna start,
Yep.
then we can introduce the concept that really Michael came up with to these other groups here. And that this is what we're gonna be doing. And then Anthony, you'll coordinate with the city attorney's office as to, and then Ashley, you're gonna speak to the city attorney's office about getting this sort of dumbed down. And let's try it and see how it works and I think we'll have made a very nice effort.
I think he'll be very receptive, and I think the district reps will be, and I think the general population will be.
I just think the tone is really so important to just be friendly and nice and non-confrontative, you know, we're there for their input, we're just volunteers, we're just trying to do it, as opposed to have any kind of, I mean, some strong push may come from the people in the public, but it should not come from us, we just need to be very chill about it.
Information,
All right. Sorry, Ashley, that was
No, that's all right. That was great
No.
discussion.
But I've been wanting to talk about this and I just was, okay. Ashley, were you done or you have more?
Oh, no, there's much more.
All right, great.
So, but I do think that probably resolves this comment about explaining the public land use section, because we can take that cheat sheet that we're gonna use for these meetings and make it available on this webpage, so that before people take the survey, they have the opportunity to read
Let me ask you a
through.
question, since we're gonna bifurcate these meetings, is it more effective to do the survey one issue at a time? Or is it better to have all of these issues on the survey?
I don't think you're gonna have a lot of success getting people to take multiple surveys.
Alright, so do you think we should do it?
I think we do one, I think when you go and I do think that this probably is the most convoluted of the topics that you've put here so far.
I think the elections can get very convoluted, you know, there's other issues here that can get very,
Right.
very, but
Not
it's
that
okay.
the rest are not complicated, but
Okay, so let's
Yeah.
start with this one.
so we'll I'll have that cheat sheet created and then we'll put it on the webpage so that people can, I think
Paul,
that,
did you have a question?
Yeah, can I jump in with a question? Might it help to have a hyperlink to the current section? Either to the entire charter or perhaps the relevant section?
yes, I will link the charter itself on this webpage as well. And then we can have this cheat sheet done there too. So
That's a great idea. Okay, well, keep going, Ashley.
Okay, the next comment that we got was that it would be helpful if we explained to them somewhere, this is has to do with the form of government. That the current city commission is comprised of one mayor elected citywide and 4 city commissioners elected by district. And that the suggestion was to add that in the intro to either question number 4 or number 6.
Maybe it should go under form of government in your city, your charter, your vote. In the introductory cover sheet. You see,
On this sheet
yeah,
here?
you said that's
Okay.
gonna go in front of the survey.
Yes, it
That's-
will.
Now we're talking, that where we talked about the form
Okay.
of government.
One
Maybe-
mayor,
Yeah, why don't you add it there?
okay.
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 What's next?
Next, the introduction to say what the charter is, again, I think we resolved that with this. Form of government, this one was, mentions the actual wording in the charter versus the council manager, so the charter uses the term commission manager. The term that we use here is council manager because that's the just general.
That's a generic governmental
form,
term.
yeah.
As opposed to,
And another suggestion was to, rather than saying one alternative, consider using the word common alternative.
when what?
Rather than saying one alternative is, say a common alternative is on the form of government.
I think that's pushing it a little bit to me. It's a judgmental thing. It's, currency, saying common is. But I'm wondering whether we should use commission manager because people will say, what's a council? We don't even know what that is. Maybe we should use the term that they can relate and say, okay, that this is a city commission. Yeah, I'm revising what I said. I think we should use commission manager because people might have a better understanding of
We can do that.
I'm assuming that if somebody disagrees with something that we're doing, they'll just pipe up, yeah.
Okay. Another comment was suggest that a question be asked about preferred public outreach method and what additional information would be valuable to residents to become more knowledgeable on the topic.
That's a great question. I'd like to hear what they have to say.
Okay, I'll work on adding a question. For the city manager residency question, maybe give some prompts so you know what people find acceptable. Example, 1, must live in the city. 2, must live within X miles from boundary of city. 3, residency requirements aren't needed.
That's a good idea.
We left it open-ended, but if you wanna make that question multiple choice, we could.
I think that sounds like a good idea. What do you think? Michael, Iggy, what do you think? Give
I like
some
that.
options?
Yeah, I'd say
That was
options
probably
are
your
always
question,
good.
Michael.
Yeah.
Michael, is that your suggestion?
That was mine, that was.
You're not allowed to do that. Say that your own suggestion's a good one.
I said I'll.
Yes.
I plead the fifth, okay?
Alright,
Okay, so you wanna add, so let me just double check what you feel like those options should be. So number 1, must live within city limits.
Yeah.
Number 2, must live within X miles, but we don't define it, or do you wanna define the miles?
Our way is Weston. I could just see somebody living in
You
Weston.
know what, I'm sort of into travel time. Must live within,
Half an hour.
have 30 minutes of travel time of City Hall, or 30 minutes of what do you think about that?
On at what time of day?
That's a good question.
Well, I think, you're talking about the person in the main chair, right? So you wanna have them close by is what I've always been, in any discussions we've had. So I like your idea of travel time, but in no case they should be less than X number of minutes away from.
Well, but I think the point that's being made is depending if you're Sunday evening at 2 AM or 3 AM,
It'd be good for you.
you get, but the other thing is that there's another variation of this, which is they have to move within the city within a certain amount of time of signing their contract.
Well, every contract, we just saw that with the new city manager and somebody.
They have to move within a certain, okay. So what's
There's
your,
also, just FYI, HR has requested that you also consider this when it comes to the department directors. So they also have a requirement that if they're not promoted into the position and they're not living in the city, that they would have to live in the city, so.
The department head? That's not true now, but they're asking for that?
No, it is true now. If you're brought in as a new applicant, you have to move to the city. If you're brought in as a promotion like I was living in the city, so it didn't matter, but when I was promoted, I would have been able to stay where I was outside the city.
I lived in Plantation as manager and don't have the requirement to move into the city when I was promoted to director.
But if somebody was hired into your position, they would.
From outside, they would have to live in
okay, I'm
the city.
gonna exercise
Wow.
judicial privilege here. This is a very, very deep well to dive
Yes.
into. We're gonna put this off. Tell human resources that we'll get to it. Make it, somebody put it on a list.
Absolutely, I just wanted to put it on your radar.
It's
Well,
too
I
much
mean-
right now.
If they have to do that, and now we're asking about their boss doesn't have to live in
Yeah.
the city,
I think we should,
okay.
I believe that's ordinance.
what is?
That's an ordinance?
I believe that's by ordinance.
Okay, maybe it is, I'll check, but she asked about the charter, so I assumed it was in there, so my bad if it was.
So anyway, for now, we're gonna deal with the city manager.
So did we decide if it's must live within X miles, must live within a certain amount of time? And would you wanna define the minutes to city limits or minutes to city hall? Sorry.
Well, that's,
How about they have to live in Broward County, something like that?
I like that.
Because you start putting minutes, I mean,
Minutes, I say.
minutes, I mean, I can get to Nadine's house in 10 minutes at 2 o'clock in the morning, but it might take me 45 minutes during rush hour, so
I wouldn't know, I never got invited.
I was making that up, okay.
I know. Okay,
Let's say within Broward
I
County.
think Broward County's good.
Okay,
What do you
must-
think, Danny?
I'm good with that.
Okay, must live
I'm
within
taking-
Broward County.
Taking silent, but, well, that's not complicated.
And then the third would be residency requirements aren't needed. And there is an additional comment here, the focus should be on qualifications, experience, ability, and willingness to serve.
Okay, I think residence requirements are not needed is an interesting option.
Just,
Let's leave it at those three.
Okay. And then the final comment I have here is consider adding a link to the Charter and Charter Review Board page. Make sure that there's someone monitoring the email address, which is posted on the board's webpage. The Charter Revision Board at fortlauderdale.gov, who does that go to? That go to you? Okay. We can definitely add that to the
And Junia,
webpage.
what do you do with it when you get an email?
Well, usually when there's comments, like in the past, there were comments from the public, I would share that with the board.
Perfect. Okay, great. And if it's something like one of your meetings, you can respond, right?
Yes, if it's
Right,
something
or-
simple,
or
staff
meetings
related.
open to the public, yes.
Yeah, if it's
Are there
something general
reception?
staff related, I can relate, but it's something for you, I would share that with you.
Okay, Ashley, what else you got?
That was the final comment. So I think I can make these adjustments and we can put together the survey and the website. I think the next time I can share with Jania I think we can publish the page. We don't have to advertise it until you're ready to do so, but I
You know
can
what, I think we should get going.
just do it.
I think I'm very comfortable if you and let Anthony look at it, just
Of course.
another set of eyes. Let Paul look at it just to see, make sure it's okay, and let's get going here.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So that took a while, but okay.
Mr. Chair, can I ask a question real quick related to, so what I heard was meeting with the different districts and the Council for Lauderdale Civic Association, I'm thinking about timing. According to your website, you have a meeting on May 13th. Are we going to try and make that meeting to keep
We'd
the
have to
ball
see,
rolling?
we'd have to see if there's,
I think we should be very respectful of the president of the Council Civic Association, let him speak to his people.
Okay.
And I think we should move as quickly as they are. I had one other thought.
he only has two speakers, remember we had that in the board meeting the other night, I thought, 2 speakers is fine, try not to have 3, but we have to ask him.
I guess the presentation should be like 5 or 10 minutes and then opportunity for discussion.
I think he'd be really interested in but
Let us
let me
know.
check, let me check.
Okay.
He's actually not a family issue, but we'll reach out to him.
Alright, great. Just be careful of the sunshine, also 2 board members.
Oh, I'll have
You talk to
Jim do it.
Yeah, okay, have Jim do it, alright.
You're getting appointed.
But don't be communicating with more than 1 board member. I don't want you getting in
I
trouble.
understand.
You already got a seat at the
You can
table, we
talk
don't
to
want
my-
to Okay, alright, let's go, okay, so. Having said all that, should we dive into this language, or having said all that, are we diving into this language as premature? Or maybe we should take the hour and at least go through the language so people might, as part of the education process?
I think we should go through the language.
Okay, so let's do that, alright.
Ready for me?
Yeah, I have one more thought. You know, Daniel, following up on something that you said, I'm wondering whether in the interim, while we get all this stuff done, there are some technical issues. Paul, the city attorney's office, do they have a list of technical issues that we need to deal with and that must be dealt with in the charter? Have you guys, do you have a list like that, a current list of what are sort of cleanup, technical but important issues that we need to deal with? Do you have that?
Isn't that the list that was provided from there was a memo?
There's a memo and there's a list, and the list is not so new.
Yeah, that was sort of my thought, like, let's focus on the low hanging fruit and get that out and have like,
Well, I was
that
thinking,
way at the end, we're not worrying about those, we're worrying about the more difficult issues after we've gotten
right.
community engagement, if that makes sense.
Was there water someplace?
In the cooler,
Good place for it. Okay, so Paul, for the next meeting, if you don't mind, if you could prepare a list of technical issues with suggested revisions. And while we're doing this input part, we can be moving ahead on these and get some of these technical issues taken care of. Like a provision that's been superseded by state law.
Okay, alright.
Provision that there's a tight, whatever, something that gotta be changed because it's inconsistent or something like that.
Last go around, we called them cleanup things.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not worried about tiny little things, but things that are of substance, but that are. Alright,
Yeah, I had done a list of, I had done a chart actually.
okay, so next time, a list and attached suggested revisions, please. How do you want to do this? Let's look at section 802.
Yeah, just go through those 3 sections that
If you'll indulge us though, there are a couple of mistakes in here and we've reprinted.
thank you.
They're not big, but I'd rather you have this.
Okay.
Did you redline the changes or no?
No.
Okay.
I'm sorry, you don't have it. I'll tell you what it was.
Thank you. Okay, so the first section 802 is the sale of city property to public bodies. We talked about this a little bit last week. Okay, and Paul, without worrying about exactly the language itself, what is the procedure that is being suggested?
Okay. Since your last meeting, at your direction, I made section 8.02 subject to 8.04A, which as proposed requires a resolution containing a finding that the sale, exchange or conveyance would be in the city's best interest, adopted by affirmative vote of at least 4 commissioners. Before, there was a little confusion about, we also referred to 8.09, which I think we decided was superfluous, and it also didn't specify that it was 8.04A.
Okay, you know what, let's look at the blue 8.02 because I'm having a little trouble with it. Okay, subject to 8.04A, which is your provision providing that it has to be in the public interest?
Public interest and at least 4 commissioners voted.
Okay, why are we not putting that in, if we made that decision, why are we having a reference to another section? Why don't we just put it in here and say it needs 4 votes and it needs a resolution? Is there a reason not to just put it in here? Is there anything else in 8.04A that's missed? Cause these,
No, we could put it there.
having people,
Have to go back. I'm agreeing with you.
right?
Yep.
Okay, so let's add to 8.02, the substance of 8.04A, please. Okay. It's authorized and empowered to sell, alienate, exchange, give, grant, or convey the United States of America or any of its departments or agencies, the state of Florida or any of its counties, districts, subdivisions, municipalities, agencies, to any other public body, any property, real or personal, now owned by the city, or hereafter acquired, or allow any such public body to make improvements in the property owned by the city for a paramount public purpose, to wit, activity that descends to the health, morals, protection, or wealth of the city, or determined by the city commission for use predominantly or for educational, literary, scientific, or charitable purposes. So in addition to what it says there, it's gonna require a finding of public purpose, right? But this one says paramount public purpose, so is that inconsistent, Paul?
No, we use the word paramount public purpose because there could be an incidental private purpose. So the main purpose has to be public.
On this section, are we requiring finding of paramount public purpose or public purpose?
I suggest a paramount
But I
public.
mean, we're now gonna require a resolution of finding of that, right? Because we're gonna incorporate 8.04A. But I don't wanna have it conflicting, I don't wanna have public purpose and paramount public purpose in the same paragraph.
Well, 8.04A is best interest, so it wouldn't be inconsistent.
I know, but I don't wanna have any confusion here. So I think it should require, if the criteria is paramount public purpose, then they should have to make a finding of paramount public purpose.
You mean that should be like included in the
8.02,
8.04 A verbiage?
8.02,
Okay,
just trying to do one at a time.
okay. Well, I know, but
Okay, Paul, do you think that's a mistake to do that?
No, but that was the reason for cross-referencing 8.04A because that's where the resolution is required. In other words, a resolution of the finding the public purpose, is that what you're suggesting?
Yes. I mean, but are we gonna require what is the difference between a paramount public purpose and a public purpose?
I think yes. For instance, a building is supposed to contain, let's say, a gym for public purpose. But I'm the person that's leasing it, so I'm also gonna put in my own restaurant and a banquet hall, and the gym.
And a smoke shop?
Yeah, all those things, so that's in my opinion what it means.
This comes from case law and there can be an incidental private purpose. So if there's a private benefit, it's okay as long as the public benefit outweighs it.
What is the definition, what is the distinction between paramount public purpose and public purpose? What is the difference?
I think it's just more specific and
Which is more specific? Which is broader? Does paramount public purpose allow more things, or does public purpose allow more things?
public purpose probably doesn't contemplate any incidental private purpose. So you might wanna
So paramount means mostly?
Yeah.
So using the term paramount public purpose allows more things than public purpose, is that correct?
I agree, I agree with that.
It seems a little loose.
Seems a little loose.
Or only public purpose, can you say that?
Public purpose could be, don't you think public purpose could be very broadly defined? I mean, you know, loaning money to a private company to build a factory in your district using industrial revenue bonds, you know, sort of loaning government money, using them to use the tax-free money, there's a public purpose to that, which is, you know, having more industry in an area. So public purpose is pretty broad, don't you think?
This language came out of case law involving a sports stadium in Tampa. And there was criticism because there was gonna be some private benefit. I don't remember the facts. But this language came out of that.
Okay, so let's talk conceptually. Do we want a broader definition for this, or do we want a more narrow definition? Forget about the words for a second. Do we want like Mary was saying, 3/4 of the building to be a gymnasium and a youth center and other things, and then it's okay if there's a little grocery store there, or?
Well, this is sale of public property
No, it's sale, but it's also allow any such body to make improvements on any property owned by the city. It's exchange, give, grant, convey, sell.
If I can add something,
I just wanted to stay on this point for a second. Do we want a looser definition when we're conveying it to a public body, or a more strict definition of what the property can be used for?
Strict.
Michael?
I would say, strict, it's just looking up the word paramount, what does it mean?
That's what I was asking.
Most importantly is what I mean,
but there could be some private
What do you
benefit.
think?
it's paramount, I guess my kids game on time.
I'm okay with paramount public purpose.
So paramount means mostly, is that correct?
Yes.
Means
More
chief
important than
in
anything,
importance.
Right.
Importantly.
Chief in importance.
anything else, and supreme or highest ranking in authority.
Okay, so but maybe you don't think that you're okay with paramount public?
Well, I'm not, when it, and I'm just kind of reading from here.
Yep.
It says, a paramount title, for instance, will prevail over another title in a legal dispute. That's a problem. If you're making something, it's supposed to be for public, and it becomes a paramount, whatever that should be, that title then, under public use, does not have that level of importance.
Okay, so let's make a policy decision and let Paul come back with the correct wording. Somebody would make a motion to either have the more strict definition, which is just public purpose, or mostly public purpose. I would take a motion, one way or the other. Daniel?
Can we just say with predominant public purpose?
I'm not gonna worry about the words.
Okay.
I'm gonna worry about the concept of Paul come back with the words. In other words, do you want it to be exclusively a public purpose or mostly a public purpose? Somebody can make a motion either way.
So I'm going that it be mostly public.
Okay, do we have a second to that?
Second.
I'm sorry, who seconded?
Nadine,
Thank you.
Jim, do you have a comment? Okay. Okay, Michael?
No comment.
Alright, so we have a motion by Mary, a second by Nadine to use whatever term Paul suggests would be mostly public purpose, primarily public purpose, but leave some room for some non-public purpose. All in favor? Aye. Okay, so Paul, you're gonna come back to us with language, the right words for that, to accomplish that, yeah? Okay, are there any, and you're gonna come back to incorporating a resolution, incorporating that passed by the city commission, incorporating whatever that term is, right?
Well, why wouldn't it be paramount though?
Well, I'm not talking about the word paramount, I'm giving you an opportunity, because there seemed to be some question here, if you come back and say the word's paramount, then that's fine. It seemed like there was some question here, as to just the right word. Okay. Okay, I will take a motion to, yes.
You want to add something else? So, the reason, this is, I'm coming back to it. The reason why previously it was subject to 8.04A and 8.09 is because of that language about allowing any such public body to make improvements on the property. That suggests, and this is original language, that suggests some other kind of arrangement besides a sale, like a lease or some other use agreement, which is in this section. But that's why we tied it, that's why the former board tied it also to 8.09, which talks about leases. So is that language about allowing the public body to make improvements?
So what is the distinction in terms of the city commission approval between leasing to public body and selling to public body? Is it the same 4 votes?
I don't think there's a
I'd prefer to keep, if we have to redefine the sale or lease of public property for public bodies, I'd just like to keep it in one place, people can just look at it and be clear.
believe that.
No, I'm asking you the question, is there a difference between the sale of public property to a public body or a lease of public body? Is in the current drafts or in the current charter, is there a distinction between the 2 types of activities?
The lease section doesn't distinguish, so it would apply to both activities.
Okay, and so what are the criteria for a lease, the way it's drafted?
So that depends on the length also, because anything that has a duration exceeding 1 year is by resolution adopted by at least 4 commissioners with a finding. And then finding based on fair market value. Remember the language about an evaluation of qualification of private party. Prepared by a qualified independent consultant, that the use of property would be in the city's best interest.
But why would we require, if we're leasing to public body, more scrutiny and more things than if we're selling it to a public body?
This would be for either one.
I know, but I'm just saying is that why, if we're okay with selling public property to the state of Florida for whatever we use, whatever term we use, without all of those things, or without the appraisal, without the this, why would we be okay with the sale?
But one reason might be that a lease, you might want to tie it to this section so it couldn't exceed 50 years. Or not.
But I do believe 8.09 in the current proposed draft, it does say 4 for lease, so we'd be, I'm not saying it's not,
It's the same.
yeah, it's the same.
That was my point that I was trying to get to. It's the same 4 votes.
Yes.
Okay, but the difference is that under 8.09, there's a bunch of other hurdles for it to go through, right? Appraisals and fair market and all that. Do we want, if we're leasing or selling to a government, do we want it to go through all of those hurdles, or are we okay with the city commission just having a discretion to do business with another public body without all of those hurdles?
I think the
I
hurdle should
think the
exist.
hurdle should be in place.
I don't know, what do you think?
I think it's simpler to say sale or lease of, in 8.02, honestly, in one spot and say it's 4, but
No, but they're talking about the
I know.
other criteria.
yeah, I know, I'm
but
looking
not-
at those other criteria,
Yeah.
which we have. As we go back to like agenda and everything, has there been a concern, and I'm sorry for not knowing, has there been a sale or lease to a public body that has caused anybody, when's the last time that occurred in the history of our city?
I've been here almost 20 years and I can't remember any sales.
I'm saying we're focusing on issues that may not really be, there are issues here that people feel passionate about, but I'm not sure this is one where we have, like there's something to fix.
They haven't swapped land with the school board or with the county for something, they haven't done any of that, Anthony?
I know
I'm
we've
not
talked
asking
about
you-
it with the school board, but I don't think we've ever executed anything that I'm aware of.
District Three had, excuse me,
Yes.
District Three had a problem with Broward Sheriff's Office and also the, come on Alvetta, and also the morgue.
What happened?
Was involved in that.
What happened?
That was
Mike?
on 21st Avenue.
What happened?
Thank you.
There was a sale of the property that was gonna happen and
The city was selling
the
property to the
the city was
sheriff.
involved as well as the county was
Yeah.
involved. And it was a whole big brouhaha that was going on.
Right.
Yeah,
So
so
was it a matter of a NIMBY kind of thing, or was it a matter of
Kinda, sorta, yeah,
or was it
yeah.
a matter of the terms of the transaction?
well, it was convoluted because there was, there was a lot of controversy, there was a lot of conspiracy thoughts going on, misinformed information, and it was a whole genre that was just being thrown out. But again, to answer that question was county, city, property with the city mall going in there. You asked the question, I give you an answer.
Yes, no, I think it's.
Some institutional
In a
knowledge.
in a residential area.
Here's District Three right here.
That's correct.
Yeah, and Jim just reminded me, we did transfer some land between the city and the county. There was a small sliver of land by the women's club, by the library, between the library and the women's club.
Okay, so they say in the legislature, the question recurs, that's what they say in the legislature. The question recurs, do we want to put the limitations on the city when it does business with another governmental entity? Do we want to all go through briefly, there's an appraisal, fair market value, right? Yeah, there's a bunch of them in 8.09, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it says exceeding
One of them was taken down.
containing a finding based on fair market value analysis of the property and evaluation of qualifications of a private party prepared by a qualified independent consultant hired by the city at the private party's expense. That such use of property would be in the city's best interest.
See, for me, the issue of dollar amount, and when it's doing business with governmental, they might want to give the property to the county because the county needs it for a fire station or something. And the protections that we put in 8.09, we're dealing with making sure they're getting a good price for it and stuff like that. So I don't know whether those things should, do you want those things all to apply? You can't. Some of them, because they're gonna give, some of the property they're just gonna give. I sort of feel, I'm gonna express my opinion, I sort
Were
of
they,
feel
I mean, they were selling that property to the sheriff.
yes.
The women's club though, we didn't give that away. Yeah.
Also too, wasn't there an issue?
Sliver there.
Wasn't there an issue, if I stand correct, on A1A with the firehouse on near Cabana Beach?
I know what you mean.
Yes, because
I'll
I
be
said
here.
on the phone.
What? Via Cabana? Yeah, there was an issue there.
I don't remember it though.
Was?
Wanted to buy it.
Yeah, they wanted to do a land swap,
Right, land swap, right.
and they wanted to add that property to the neighboring property, which was Bahia Cabana. But that wasn't a private, that wasn't
try to
a
remember.
that wasn't a
Okay.
public entity.
So the criteria we're talking about, criteria that we're talking about including or not including are agreements having a duration more than 50 years require a vote of 4. We've taken care of that, right? And adopted by affirmative vote for containing a finding based on a fair market value analysis of the property and evaluation of the qualifications of the private party. That doesn't seem relevant to a government to me.
I don't know, in this day and age, I'm not sure that's right.
Of the private parties prepared and private use of the property would be in the city's best interest and included in the city commission consideration of an agreement that has a duration exceeding 10 years including options, shall be the consideration of a company business viability report prepared by a qualified independent consultant hired by the city. So the question is whether those are appropriate additional criteria when they're doing business with another government.
Can I offer another? So we do talk to the county a lot about affordable housing projects. So we haven't really done it yet, but there's this consensus that it could happen where we could swap land with them, and like, so we own some land that's just outside the city, we tried to swap with the city, which gave us different direction, but if they had accepted that, they were gonna use it for either expanding the park or doing affordable housing. And some of these things may get in the way of a project like that may benefit to the community.
Got it.
I don't know how you do a viability analysis of a local government or a city state government, I don't know how you do that. Okay, so
Is this only talking about other governments, this section, right? Okay.
well, this section I was reading from applies to all leases, but we're trying to decide whether those criteria should be applied to the section only dealing with government. That's what we're talking about.
For something less than a sale.
Pardon?
For something less than a sale. It's about allowing the public body to make improvements.
City of Wilton Manors wants to come in and swap, I mean, I know that's unlikely, but it's probably more the county and the state. But how do you assess?
Well, it's also too, if I may say, another issue was District 1. Come on, Michael, the old stockade, and maybe the city of Fort Lauderdale going in and purchasing that piece of property, whereas turning it into a community center for.
That's different than this, that's when the city is acquiring property, this is when the city is disposing of property in one way or another.
Okay, disposing, got it.
Okay, my opinion is this, we elect these people to be elected officials. If 4 people on the city commission feel like it's appropriate to do business, to swap land, to do something with another local government, again, I come from a little bit of a government background, I feel like I'm okay with that, and I don't need them to get an appraisal, and I don't need them to do a viability study of whether the housing project that the county is gonna do on the, I don't usually like to do that, but that's the way I feel. So others free to disagree without, you disagree?
No, I agree.
I'm not trying to be pushy at all.
I mean, I'm just unsure,
I agree, we should, from a simplification standpoint, I think we should deal with it 8.02 and just say it's simple.
Okay.
4 votes. 4 votes and not have the other criteria from 8.09.
Okay.
Okay.
So you're saying make it
Nadine
like 8.02.
is thinking about this. I hate to,
For me, I just think checks and balances are always good.
and you don't think 4 votes is enough.
4 votes is enough, I agree. I think
That's,
four-
I think 4 votes.
Yes, I think four votes is enough.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alright,
Okay.
so again, I don't ever wanna be perceived as being pushy or pushing my opinion,
No,
but I
4 votes is
do have an opinion, I have an opinion on everything, but I try not to push.
So you're saying to make it be 8.09, like,
Yeah, we're not going to include all that viability language.
Okay.
8.04, 8.02 is gonna be amended to just require 4 votes and a finding of whatever Paul tells us, public purpose, paramount, whatever he tells us, and that's what it's gonna be required to do business with public land. Now, Paul, the other issue that came up as we were discussing this is this language about or any other real person now owned by the city hereafter to allow such public body to make improvements on any property owned by the city for a paramount public purpose. So do you think that implies that that's like a lease, right? Okay, so do we need to add the word lease to the beginning of section 8.02?
Could be some other kind of use agreement also.
Okay, so you understand what we're doing, we're incorporating whatever they're doing with another government into this one section. They can't do it without 4 votes.
I wanted to ask about that too, because at the last meeting, after this discussion of 4 votes, I have in my notes that something about United States, state, county, city, school board, I wrote 3 votes. So did you settle on the 4 votes?
Yeah, I think we, didn't we vote on that?
I remember, yeah, I think it's in the minutes,
I've got it in my notes
Okay.
as well, 4 votes.
So please rewrite this section incorporating any type of transfer of any kind, sale to a public body, requiring 4 votes and a resolution declaring it to be a public purpose, paramount purpose, whatever the flexible term is.
What else did you say you wanted to add least to the title?
What?
Did you wanna add least to the
To the
title? You're talking about the improvements?
Well, if you, yeah,
Section.
I think it should be just, okay, so conceptually, we're gonna vote, I don't think we need to vote on this at the moment, you can bring that language and we'll vote on it next time. Please, we gotta adopt the one section next meeting. Alright. Okay, let's move on. Paul, you clear? Alright. Sale of real property to public, private parties. 18, again, we have a reference here, what is 1821, 821? Okay, so I'm okay with the exception there,
Because parks are.
because parks are different, okay, parks get a different, okay. So except with respect to parks, the city is hereby authorized and empowered to sell any real property owned by the city to a private party or exchange, deed, or convey any real property owned by the city in consummating a transaction whereby the city acquires property needed in connection with a public improvement or public use as provided by ordinance and consistent with applicable laws subject to the following. The approval of any sale shall be pursuant to a resolution containing findings such sale, exchange, etc. would be in the city's best interest adopted by 4 commissioners. So they cannot sell real property unless they have 4 commissioners. The city is authorized to pay a real estate, and then that's it. So to sale to private parties, 4 votes, yeah?
Yep.
Nothing else.
Now, the difference between the version at the last meeting is that you had asked me to split the language of consummating a transaction whereby the city acquires property, swap to put part of it here and part of it in 8.09 under leases.
So. What do you got on there, Danny?
is that opera?
Danny vote?
Danny Williams, Danny does.
I love opera.
Anthony singing?
Alright, so that's all about my allergies.
So we split the exchange of property that was in section 8.04B of the last version into 8.04 for sale of property and 8.09 for leases.
So what is the difference here between public sale to public parties and then private parties? What is the difference? Given what we've just discussed.
This is just private parties.
No, given what we've just discussed with respect to public parties, what is the difference?
Government,
No, but I mean, what is the difference in the criteria? It requires 4 votes, right? It's gotta be for a public purpose.
The standard here is that it would be in the city's best interest. Because it's a sale, the city is making a sale, a transaction whereby the city is selling property and that would go to the amount of the consideration, terms. And again, this also includes land swaps. Where the city obtains a parcel in exchange for another.
But is there really any substantive difference between public-private parties and private parties? The way this is drafted?
I think the thrust here is the business decision. Enough consideration, enough of a high enough price. I think that's what this is about. That the city doesn't need the property for anything. So
Yeah, or the city doesn't really have to sell it either, you know. Hopefully.
and that's why it would take 4 votes.
But why is there any difference between this transaction and the transaction with the government?
Because it doesn't have to be a public purpose for this.
What
It
about
just needs to be an improved, it's a real estate transaction, it's a business deal.
And there isn't for public bodies, there's no real estate.
So it's easier to get rid of a piece of property to a private party than it to the government? The other one has to be a paramount public purpose, this one's whatever.
Well, if somebody's buying it, then it's their property, you
Yeah.
know.
Right, but with the government, you may not be getting anything in return, you may be giving it away, you may be allowing another government to use it, so there needs to be a public purpose for it. Here, it's a business deal,
It's a real estate
it's
transaction.
a real estate transaction, so is the city getting enough, is the price high enough, is it market value, is it?
Well, I
It's
mean,
a
you're
good
saying
deal.
here public improvement or public use. So the person may not be doing either or.
It's needed and, okay,
Yeah,
whereby
so
the
it's
city
consummated.
acquires,
That's about the swamp,
yeah, that's a swap.
that's the
You
swamp
got it.
piece of it.
Oh, okay.
Anthony, you ever thought about this? What I'm talking about?
I think so, I'm just wondering where the language would be, you know, about the, maybe I'm just reading about the market analysis and the.
It's under a lease.
Right,
This is
why
sale.
wouldn't it be under this evaluation of the property?
So there's like a vacant trash up weedy lot. I
Right.
buy it from the city, but I say I'm going to improve it. That would be the public.
Well, the city just said, we just need the money. We're gonna sell, like DOT has hundreds of parcels of property they've identified, they don't need anymore, they're just selling them. They just don't want them, they'd rather have them little.
And we just recently did 2 pieces of property near the performing arts in exchange for our commitment to meet a cash commitment to the PACA. So you know, that was, the big thing there was getting an appraisal to know what we're really.
By the garage.
Yeah, by the garage, yeah, about 2 meetings ago we did that. So that was the big thing of, you know, what are we giving in exchange, and it ended up that we even had, like, I think the property was over 2 million, and there was still like 850,000 left over for future expenditures that we may have with PACA. I mean, we still have our meetings there, and you know, we pay for the meetings, to have the meetings, the commission meetings there. So I think on that was the biggest thing about the appraisal. But I think with like you're saying in the 09, I think it's more of like doing all this extra things to decide, you know, is this the best use of this land for the next 50 years or not, is what's more involved about.
As opposed to just getting rid of it.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, even just doing the right move, should we do this instead of this project there? And, you know, is that the best, is there revenue possibly in the next 50 years?
84.04 is written, the way I read it, is the city can just sell property, in the best interest of the city, done. No strings, no public purpose, nothing. That's the way it's written.
yeah, and something that's kind of been under discussion for a couple of years now is the site next to the police department headquarters where the fleet is. So there's been interest from certain parties about doing a development there. And in that case, you know, I would advocate for an analysis of what happens to fleet. Is it gonna be incorporated into what that development is? Are they gonna pay to relocate fleet over there? So maybe that's something that should be considered in here when we talk about what that land is currently used for and what the capacity is to transfer that use to something else.
Thoughts? Okay, so on 8.4, the question is whether there should be any criteria at all in there where the city, 4 votes, the city can just sell property to anybody who wants. Is everybody, people comfortable with that? If they are, somebody could make a motion to adopt this the way it is.
I can make the motion to adopt it as is.
Okay, Michael makes a motion,
And I'll second it.
Barry makes a second. All in favor, discussion, what?
Public.
Anybody from the public? Jim, if you wanna say something, just raise your hand and I'll call you, all right? I don't wanna pick on you. I always pick on you a little bit.
You can pick.
Can you?
I thought we were not gonna adopt anything because we're waiting for more feedback. I thought that was our plan.
Oh, okay.
Is that, so we just discussed in the last one, but I
I understand. That's what I, that's
But
why
I
I
didn't
said
think
to
this
him,
one was controversial.
maybe it is. Well, you know
Maybe
what?
it is.
Let's adopt this stuff and if there's some concern about where, I thought one of the concepts was to go through what had been done, that could include what we've done, and get some comment on it, if people have a different view of it, then we can go back to it. So this is all temporary, I mean, it's all provisional, yes.
Mr. Chair, for the record, motion to adopt as is, could the motion maker please state what section you're referring
Section
to?
8.04.
8.04.
Michael made that motion, Mary seconded it.
Just
You guys have-
clarifying that it was 8.4 and you didn't want any.
8.04.
Oh, 4, you didn't want any other clarification. Thank you.
Okay, Michael, subject to your comment, which is that we can go back to this after we hear the public input, are we okay with moving ahead?
yes.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Okay, any opposed? Okay. Okay, the famous 8.09. Do you guys have enough juice to do 8.09?
Didn't we all already dissect this?
This thing is like a laboratory fraud, we've decided.
Okay,
So
Yeah.
what changed in 8.09 was the other half of exchange of property. So it's in the middle of the first paragraph. Where it says,
You mean the original?
no, what I passed out, what you have
Oh, wait, okay, that's sorry.
8.09, so where it talks about, about 6 lines down from the top on the second page of it. Or in connection with a transaction whereby the city acquires property needed in connection with public improvement or public use. So in other words, there could be the city could acquire property in exchange for leasing other property. And we discussed that at the last meeting. And so they can lease property in exchange for acquiring property needed in connection with the public improvement or public use. And of course, subject to the other conditions of 8.09. That's what changed from last time.
okay. Paul, the 50 years applies to these agreements, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, I feel like it's sort of like, I don't know what you would call it, I was not good at grammar. But I feel like having the 50 years all the way on the end just begs for interpretation problems.
It's really not, because if you look at the blue one,
I'm looking at the blue one. It's all at the end of that very, very long sentence. So it's,
oh, I see,
it's a very, very long sentence.
in the long sense.
And they're very, yeah, and I'm saying that they hereby empowered to lease rent through license agreements, rights agreements with private parties. So I feel like the 50 years needs to be moved up, because it's not clear that it applies to all of this. Because it could be read to say, or in consuming a transaction where the city acquires property needed in connection with for a period of not more than 50 years, that could be just read just to modify that clause. And I don't think I think it's not clear that it modifies all of it, right? It's supposed to modify all of it.
Well, I think the comma there does that. But it can be,
Yeah, I think it needs
it can
to.
be adjusted.
Okay, agreements having a duration of at least 1 year shall be pursuant to a resolution adopted by affirmative votes of 4 people. We've gone through this. In addition, if it has a duration exceeding 10 years, then it needs a viability report prepared by a qualified independent consultant. Okay, so they could lease land, simplifying, they can lease land or they can swap land for up to 50 years, right? With 4 votes, with 4 votes. And that anything more than a year needs to be there needs to be a fair market value analysis. And the third piece is 10 years requires a business viability analysis.
I remember talking about this last time.
Are we okay with this?
I think it creates some ambiguity the way it's drafted, so
I agree.
this doesn't allow you, because the way it's drafted, it's not clear that if I was letting someone use the beach for a weekend, that it's not included with the 4 votes, like, so it's not, that you, as you stated, the 1 year seems to be only exception for whether you need a market, it doesn't say leases less than 1 year don't require, I think it's.
But I think anything exceeding 1 year requires the 4 votes. So
Is that clear enough? Do you think that's clear?
So anything less.
It says agreements having a duration
majority.
exceeding 1 year shall be pursuant to a resolution adopted by the affirmative vote of at least 4 commissioners containing a finding based on blah, blah, blah.
So anything less than 1 year would be a simple majority, it would seem to me.
Right, yeah, anything that's not, the rule is that unless there's a specific special vote required, it's just gonna be a simple majority.
Okay, so if you think it's clear enough, I think it's 1 year less than.
I mean, we can look at it again, but I think that's pretty clear. Let's go over the language again. So they're authorized for up to 50 years, anything more than a year requires 4 votes. And the implication is that if anything less than 50 years, then 1 year, that's it. Questions on this section? Tell me if I burned everybody out.
I also have a question.
Yes.
So
Better be quick, cause Nadine's burned out. Some of the rest of them, sorry too.
Well, it is, I mean, after you read it, like,
So and I think there was some discussion by the prior board on this, but on the piece exceeding 10 years and the viability report prepared by a qualified independent consultant. What is qualified?
Well, the city commission is gonna have to determine that, we can't. We're not gonna be more specific than that. If the city commission thinks they're qualified, I'm good with that.
Hired by the city, yeah.
Okay, motion to adopt this, again, temporarily, provisionally. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Nadine made the motion. Second. Daniel made the second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Are you guys okay with using first names? It's okay, right?
oh, yeah.
Right, so you stop calling me Mr. Chairman and Michael. Because when I get home, it's like really weird because they don't call me that.
Mr. Chairman.
But that's what Michael does.
Yeah.
Get your attention, you know, get you a rise, you know.
I think we're burnt out. I think we did fine. Okay, so just to talk, so we're gonna hopefully have some progress for next time on our outreach. We should have a report on where we are, yeah. And second, Paul, you're gonna provide us a list. The agenda next time is gonna be starting on the city attorney's list of things that need to be done, and each item should have item, problem, or the issue, and then a suggested change.
I feel that we moved the needle significantly
Well, I'm glad.
today.
I wouldn't want you to leave here thinking we.
Come again?
Yeah, I'm glad.
No, I'm
Me too.
serious.
Me too. We're trying, right?
Yeah.
Do the best we can. Okay, anything for the good of the order? Jim, anything final? Mr. Auditor, anything?
That's it, I'm good.
Okay, anything else from the city attorney's office? No? All right, thank you very much. Motion to adjourn.
Have a good evening.